Hello and welcome back to the No Dig Norfolk Gardener. Now I'm just lifting the covers of these brassicas. They are the purple sprouting broccoli, because I just want to check on its progress. Oh yeah, look at the stems, look. It's a really wet day today. In fact, it is most weekends now. But that doesn't stop us from enjoying a lovely harvest of vegetables. I can't tell you just how much the aroma of celery is in the air just by harvesting the celeriac. And that's what a celeriac looks like. If you haven't grown it before, I know I've talked about them quite a lot over the year. But now that we have no more celery left, this can take its place. And for myself and Mrs. W, practically you cut this bulb in half and we'll use one half of this bulb for whatever we want to use it, in whatever dish we're cooking, however we want to use it. And all you need to do is to take these roots off, and then you'll then be left with the bulb. So all you really have to do is to take these roots off, and there you have the bulb. Now the other thing I just want is some leeks, because although we can't be out here in the garden this afternoon, it doesn't stop myself and Mrs. W doing a bit of cooking. And one of the things we do want for during the week is a lovely leek and potato soup. Yeah, we're good for the table. Now, I think it's about time we got in and asked some viewers questions before we get absolutely soaking wet. Now, today's video will ultimately be filmed over 2 weekends, last weekend and this weekend. Reason being that myself and Mrs. W became grandparents again for the 3rd time. And we were very keen, obviously, to go and see the eldest girl and son-in-law, and to welcome Rosie Ann into this world. Anyway, all was well, and yeah, everything turned out good. So today is the Postbag, and we've had many questions sent over to us, so thank you very much for that. We do thank you for that, because without that, clearly we have no questions to answer. And if we can pass on any pieces of information that can help, that makes us really, really happy. Now, the first question that came in was, how did you get into No Dig? Well, probably like most people who read some of the works and watched some of the works of Charles Dowding, and I thought it was a really great idea. It was getting to the point, and you've seen our garden many times on film, and it was getting to the point really where I was struggling to prepare all of our land ready for cropping in the spring. We've had lots of rain here in Norfolk for the last sort of 3 weeks now, really. There's not many days that it hasn't rained. And weekends in particular have been very wet. So it's very boggy underfoot when we want to walk up the grass paths. And if we weren't no dig, I simply wouldn't be able to turn over the soil to get it ready for winter, and so that it's ready for us to sow or plant into next March. And it really was getting to the stage where I was having to go out there in late February, early March to actually start digging the plots. Either rain or frost was preventing me from being able to do it during November and December and January. And when you've got 5 plots, which are 12 feet by 14 feet, that's quite a lot of digging to do. So I was actively thinking, right, do I shut down some of these beds and grow less? Is there another way? And I just happened to stumble across one of Charles Dowding's videos and watched 2 or 3 more. And the No Dig sounded really quite good. But being a Norfolk man, you often think to yourself, is it really right? This cannot be this good. No digging, less weeds, and an abundance in harvest. I said to Mrs. W, look, let's turn one of our beds over to No Dig. And she said to me, no, actually what we'll do is we'll turn 2 over into No Dig. And we'll let the others grow our vegetables in the same way as we did in the other 3 and see how we get on. Now this was back in 2020, about June time when we did it. We didn't wait till the autumn, it was about June time. And yeah, that's what we did. We noticed a difference straight away. We weren't having to spend hours weeding our soil. And the harvests were really, really fantastic. They were great. So as we welcomed in 2021, we also decided that we were going to change all of our plots over to No Dig. And that's exactly what we did. And then from that year onwards, we were filming most weekends. And you guys have been watching our videos and seeing just how well it has worked. Now, I'm not saying No Dig is for everybody because that's a decision that you have to make. But for us, most certainly, it is. And you can see by the sort of harvest that we get from week to week, see what's in front of me now, it certainly doesn't let you down in that department. For me, there is no more digging. You know, it's almost the end of November now. It's absolutely chucking it down a rain outside. And I'm in here, not having to worry about whether I've actually got my beds turned over, ready for the upcoming season. And all I do now, that the beds are all over to No Dig, is to just add a 1-inch layer of compost on top of each bed. It might be a little more. Ideally, if you read the books, if you listen to people, they say roughly a 1-inch layer, somewhere between 1 and 2 inches, because I certainly don't get the ruler out and see whether there's particularly exactly 1 inch on there. Now that leads us nicely into the second question that I got in the post bag, which was, your vegetables look really, really good and your plots look really well cared for. In fact, they look so good, can you tell me what you're feeding your plants on? As I said in the previous question, we're No Dig. The 5 vegetable plots outside that you see us on throughout the year, only the soil is fed once a year with an 1 to 2 inch layer of compost on it. And in some cases, those 5 plots, they will produce up to 3 different harvests. But in the main, they will produce 2. And that compost feeds the soil, which in turn then feeds the plants that we grow in it. Now, other than that, we do not add anything else. Gone are the days where I was using Grow More or Fish Blood and Bone or anything like that. That simply doesn't happen. Save me a fortune. And the other thing with being No Dig and not having to worry about redressing the balance of feed within the soil, because we're No Dig, is that I'm now able to grow another crop, a succession crop, after the initial one that was in there. Don't have to worry about putting some more feed in so that they can sustain those plants that we put in there. And in many cases, myself and Mrs. W we're out there and as soon as the last harvest is taken from that particular crop, they're twisted out, and on that same day the new plants are in. And that's why you often see us with succession plants that are different from the ones you saw earlier in the year. It enables us to do this. We weren't able to do that before we were No Dig. Now, as you saw, I think last week when we filmed this, as I said to you, this is filmed over 2 weeks, but there are the leeks, and we want to make a nice leek and potato soup for us to be able to enjoy during the week. And this afternoon, the vegetable that we're going to have is a Romanesco. Now, this is one of the smaller ones that we had out in the garden. We actually had one with our grandson yesterday, which was a bit larger. And he said it rather reminded him of Christmas trees. I think he's quite right, really. They do look like little Christmas trees, don't they? There's a wonderfully nutty taste. And we are so really happy about that because we've actually never produced a harvest of Romanesco before. I do get a lot of questions that come in and say, oh, my crop this year for this has been absolutely awful. This has not gone right. This has not gone right. Do you know what? Not everything ever goes right for us either. And it's been many, many years. But eventually, we've got there. So don't give up. Keep trying. And it will all come right. Don't forget that when you are gardening, you know, you're greatly affected by the weather for that year, how good the seed was when, you know, you sowed it. You know, if you remember back earlier this year, but we tried to sow some zabroon seeds of shallots, and not one single seed germinated. So you, as I say, you are at the mercy of many, many things. But all we can do is try. Next year will be something else that doesn't work quite so well, but then something else that maybe didn't work so well this year will harvest in abundance. If you like what we do, then please subscribe to our channel. The button is down there, and we'd love to have you on board. And don't forget to click the bell icon too, so that you're notified every time we do upload a video. And we shall see you next time.